Now, back to Tony and Casey's Best of Food and Wine on Smooth and Easy. CL 650.
This is gonna be the best day of my life.
Welcome back to the Best of Food and Wine. I'm Tony Gismondi.
I'm Casey Wilson.
We're having fun here. We were in Canada, we've been in Italy, and we're now changing gears again and moving to Spain, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And joining us now is Pieter Whaley. He's the export manager for Bodega's Piqueras.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, it's great to be here again.
Good to see you. Enjoying Vancouver?
Very much so. I'm very jealous of you guys out here. It's beautiful.
Jealous of what? Come on, you.
Well, look out the window, right?
Well, yeah, I guess that's a pretty cool sight.
And also the whole lifestyle. You know, the bars, the restaurants. It's happening. It's a cool place to be right now, I think.
Yeah.
Well, for many years now, actually.
Yeah.
And where do you live?
I live in Valencia, on the east coast in Spain.
Which isn't so bad.
No.
It's not so bad, to be honest. Yeah, it's about 22 degrees at home right now, so it's not, you can't complain.
Yeah.
So Valencia is about 1 hour away from Almansa, which is where the winery is located.
Yeah.
The biggest difference is altitude. You know, Spain, as you know, is a plateau.
Yes.
So we go to about 800 meters in altitude when you go to the winery. It's a beautiful town with a beautiful old castle from the 11th century. That's where the name Almansa comes from.
Yeah.
So we have the castle there, which is a claim to fame if you want a tourist destination. And all around the town you have the vineyards where these wines come from.
Yeah.
So it's an exciting place. Spain, as you know, is a very diversified country with lots of history, lots of fantastic winemakers, coming out these wonderful, grapes, obscure grapes in different regions. I think Spain's hot. Spain's exciting, and
It
it's
is,
really
and the
hot,
food, and
you
talk about the bars. Oh
yeah,
my
and the
goodness.
tapas culture.
Exactly.
When we look at Spain in fashion, in sports, in food, it's moving really, really fast. It's reinventing itself every day, and it's going global. You find Spanish wines now everywhere, Spanish cuisine as well.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the world's top chefs as well. As it's
Very
exciting.
Well,
Very
what about
creative.
the football? Is it any good in Spain?
Well, it's all imported, so it's quite good. The Valencian team right now is not playing so well, but Barcelona and Madrid are world-class teams, of course.
Yeah, of course.
They love their football. Yeah, it's quite crazy over there.
And in your region, is there more red wine or white wine? Or?
Well, the Almansa, Spain in general is mostly red, of course. Although it's got some fantastic whites as well and sparklings. Almansa as a region is a relatively small appellation. It's not far from the Valencian, the Yecla and the Jumilla appellations. We have two predominant grapes, indigenous grapes. One of them is Monastrell, or Mourvèdre, as they call it in French.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is the Garnacha Tintorera, which is a Alicante Boucher, one of the few grapes with red flesh, a Teinturier grape.
Mm-hmm.
So those are really the backbone of all of our wines. So we're really, in that sense, a red wine region predominantly. This being said, high altitude, very calcareous soils, lots of limestone, very poor soils. So we have actually a Verdejo and a Sauvignon Blanc blend, kind of a Rueda style, and it works fantastic. In fact, that's what every year we're having to plant more and more white vineyards, or white grapes, to produce more white wine.
Mm-hmm.
So we're traditionally a red wine region, but that's actually changing in a way.
Yeah.
Juan Pablo is, as you know, you've met him before, he's the owner. It's last year was for us a very special year. We actually celebrated the 100th anniversary of the winery. For again, small region and small winery, and coming out of nowhere.
So great, yeah.
Canada is actually our biggest market. This is the wine we have here, the Reserva. It's the number one has been for the last 10 years, the number one Spanish wine in Canada.
Yep.
It's a stable wine. It's a Reserva, which means it has 12 months in oak, a minimum of 12 months. It's a 2012 vintage. In this specific wine, we use Monastrell for about 60%, which is again the backbone of the wine. And then we have about 20% of Tempranillo, just to freshen it up a bit, and 20% Garnacha Tintorera as well. So this is just a fine example of what I think Spain can do in the sense it's a traditional style, but at the same time it's more fruit forward. We're very careful about the use of the oak as well, not to overplay that. So, and at $12.29 is just fantastic value. Well, that's Spain for you, right?
It has a beautiful
Fabulous
freshness.
price.
That's why I've been living there for 12 years now, and I always tell my friends, for under 10 euros, you go to any bar or restaurant in Spain, as you've known yourselves, and you have some amazing wines, So
Yes.
it's, and I think sometimes we forget, that wine is an agricultural product. It comes from the fields, from the vineyards. I really think, and I've learned living in Spain, that good wine doesn't have to be expensive per se. To be honest,
it doesn't.
No.
if we go back to the basics of sound farming practices
Yep.
and good crop management,
Yes.
and then just keeping it simple in the winery, not making too much of a fuss about it. If you have good grapes, good wine is made in a vineyard, as Juan Pablo always says. And in a winery, you just have to just polish it a bit, and that's it, to be honest.
And you have the whole tapas culture too, which is kind of nice because it's amazing how little bites of food can really set the wine off too. It's a whole other experience. But
when people come to our table, I always tell them, well, this kind of a format, of course, it's a bit forced in a way. It's not the natural way you would have wine at home.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I always tell them that even our white wine, most Spanish whites, we call them cocktail wines, which means they're very big on the nose, very expressive, but on the palate sometimes they're very short. The way, actually, Juan Pablo says to me as a winemaker with 40 years of experience, the white wine is my most complex wine to produce. Although it seems to be the simplest, it's actually the most complex. Because he makes wines thinking of food always. Before he makes a wine, he first thinks, how will I match it to my food?
Yes.
In Spain, we have a saying, that a meal without wine is like a day without sunshine. So the two go hand in hand in a way. So it's very important to think, that we just have that whole lifestyle where you go to a restaurant, you just order, a couple of like potato chips or whatever, or a bit of ham or cheese, manchego cheese, and you always get a glass of wine with it. It's just that whole lifestyle we have. It's a Mediterranean diet.
But people don't focus on wine, they just drink it. They don't
Oh, yeah,
talk
that-
a lot about it like
the-
they do here.
The funny thing about Spanish people, and I've lived there for many years now, is that they never speak about what they're eating right there and then.
No.
They always talk about what they had 2 weeks before, or the meal they're going to have the next day or the 2 days afterwards. And then that
That's
meal they're
such
having
a
then.
great observation.
No, but it's
It
true
is.
though. They'll always observe. I mean, they're very observant, but
Yes.
not in that moment.
No.
They always like to to think back
Think
and
about
reflect
it,
on
and
it.
that's very true.
So, but that's just fun. That's what I like about it. These cultural nuances you have, in every country, of course. And Spain is exciting in that sense.
Our guest is Pieter Whaley. He's the export manager for Bodegas Piqueras, and we've been tasting the Castillo de Almanza Reserva, which, believe it or not, sells in British Columbia for $11.29 Canadian.
Yeah. Well, it's actually
which
$12. It's
That's
actually,
a couple of euros, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, we do have more wines, of course. We have
Yes.
some more exciting ones, of course. But this is what I call my Monday to Thursday wine. This is my everyday drinking wine, and you don't find a wine of that caliber from Spain
No.
at that price point.
No, and that's what's important, the value.
And
Exactly.
shockingly, it has a screw cap on it, which we love. How did that happen?
Well, the
It's
thing
very
is,
hard to do in Spain.
well, in Spain, it's you get your head chopped off. To be honest.
Yeah.
We've been in business now for 100 years. It's still 100% family owned. So Juan Pablo, as you met,
Yep.
he's the third generation. His grandfather founded the company. Today, we export about 98% of our production. In most of these markets, like Canada being our biggest market, people like that. It's about convenience. And at the same time, we do internal tastings to see how the wines evolve over time with natural cork, synthetic cork, and also screw cap. And with these kind of wines, which are your everyday drinking wines,
Yeah,
it doesn't make
they
that
don't
much
need a
difference, to
cork.
be perfectly
No.
honest. I actually, I really get frustrated as a consumer when I find a beautiful wine. I was in Hungary a few years ago and I got two nice, Tokai wines, and when I got home, they were both corked, and I really was going crazy. I said,
Yes.
I tasted them at origin; they were fantastic.
Yeah.
They're not cheap, And I was like, just because of when we think about it, the packaging of the winemaking and the packaging have evolved. The only thing that hasn't evolved over the last 3 centuries is the cork.
Yes.
Everything else has evolved.
Well, it
That's
has evolved. It's worse than ever.
Oh, well, I said, yeah, exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
So we're a winery, where we have the culmination of tradition and also, it's a bit more modern. We're looking forward. So we have the traditional, the old vineyards. We have a vineyard now from 1916, so that's 100 years this year exactly. We have, Juan Pablo is old school, so he likes to make wine in a very simple and a very natural way. All the wines we have are organic. They're all made in a very, simple way in that sense, and just using wild yeast and, natural fermentations and so on. And at the same time, we're quite observant. We work in many countries, so we see that people's trends are changing. People like fruit. For example, the oak. We're very careful about the oak in our wines. We use big barrels, and second and third fill. So we don't want to over oak the wines. If you have good fruit, show it to the end, carry it to the end, to the consumer.
I just want to stop you there. I mean, you just sort of gloss over, but all the wines are made naturally. You don't mess around with the wines. This is fantastic.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. When people see these wines and the prices, they assume we're a very big producer and we make wines in a very technological way. We fix the wines and so on. In fact, I had a team of Andrew Peller coming to see us last year, the whole team, and they had never been to Almanza before. We've worked on for 20 years now. And the first thing they said, when they looked at the soil, was like, my God, how can anything grow here?
Yeah.
And that's what I
Yes.
wanted them to see. Say we get on an average about 1.2, 1.3 kilos per vine. That's very low for our region, and to get these kind of prices, it's even harder to be able to do that. So for us, it's just very simple. Juan Pablo says, this is the way I was taught by my father, and he was taught by his grandfather. And so that's the only way I know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's the right or the wrong way, but that's my way.
Yes.
It's old school.
Yeah.
And so far in the last 50 years, it hasn't failed him. And the last 100 years of the winery, it hasn't failed us.
I was talking to somebody last week in Argentina, and we were talking. He was saying to me that they're all going back. He says the plan is to go back to make wines, to make wines the way they were made in the 50s. Because they didn't mess around. They didn't have anything.
Today, when people say to me, why don't you put in your wines, a sticker saying organic?
Yeah.
And I say to them, well, because at the time of our grandparents, of our parents, everything was organic.
Exactly.
So nothing.
They didn't need a sign.
Exactly, you didn't need a sign to say that.
Yeah.
And also, it was not that expensive. So because it's organic, it doesn't have to be better or more expensive or worse or more expensive.
Yeah.
It's the same wine, the same vineyards, the same way of making the wine. Now we use stainless steel, before we use concrete. I mean, some things have changed, but the wine itself hasn't changed, the essence of wine.
No.
And I think that's also one of the reasons why we've had, as a small appellation and as a small winery, to be honest, we've had a lot of success in the world, because the wines still taste like genuine wines. They still taste like, when you go back to Spain, in the old Spain, that's what they tasted like. We don't make wines for the markets. We make wines, as best as we can make them, in a way.
Yeah. Peter, thanks so much for joining us
thanks
today.
for you guys.
It goes so fast. Thanks for coming to Vancouver. I hope you enjoy your stay.
Oh, yeah, I love it here.
And we'll try and drop by the booth. You've got 3 other pretty interesting wines that you're pouring at the booth, I hear.
Yeah, just like I said, we do have, because last year was our 100th anniversary as a winery.
Yep.
So Juan Pablo said for the first time in his life, he made a wine without any external influence, without any, the buyers or the wine tasters or anybody else, saying, this is my little baby. So it was a secret project. He didn't ask anybody, what he was going to do there. And we have this, 101-year-old vineyard, Monastrell, Grenache, and a bit of Syrah.
Wow.
It's a one-off. It's not even sold anywhere in the world. It's just for private tastings. It's just trying to showcase the best of what Almanza has to offer.
Great.
So if you have a chance, please come by. It'd be great.
Perfect. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Peter Whaley, export manager from Bodega Piqueras from Spain. We just tasted a delicious bottle of the Castillo de Almanza, a very famous name in Vancouver, $11.29 BCLS listed. Just a crazy price for a delicious wine. Thanks so much. You're listening to the Best of Food and Wine. We're live tonight. We're on the floor. Art, I don't know, there's probably 3,000 people now in the room.
At least,
maybe more. Everybody's lined up at booths. Everybody's being polite, asking questions, tasting wine. What a community.
You made a mistake if you're not here tonight.
You made a mistake.
Yes, good night to be here.
The Best of Food and Wine. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back, and we're going to interview one of the most controversial people in the Okanagan Valley.
3 things you need to do at the 2016 Vancouver International Wine Festival. 1. Visit the theme region of Italy. 2. Visit the Best of Food and Wine stage inside the theme region. And 3. Enter to win a deluxe 2-night stay in a waterfront villa at Painted Boat Resort Spa and Marina on the Sunshine Coast. Winner announced 9 p.m. Saturday. Italian is as easy as 1, 2, 3 with CIL 650.